Good morning.
Good morning.
Very happy to be here today. It's a beautiful day. I'm starting to get the feeling if it's a holiday, this must be watermill. It's the last time I was here was Easter, and this is Independence Day weekend, and the next time I'll be here will be Columbus Day weekend. So this is my holiday getaway. I can't think of a better place. Now, my topic today is Thoughts for Independence Day, and I'd like to begin with a description of the first Independence Day as given to us by Washington Irving in his book Life of George Washington. He writes, "While danger was gathering round New York and its inhabitants were in mute suspense and fearful anticipations, the General Congress at Philadelphia was discussing with closed doors what John Adams pronounced the greatest question ever debated in America, and as great as ever or will be debated among men. The result was a resolution passed unanimously on the 2nd of July that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states. The 2nd of July, adds the same patriot statesman, will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America. I am apt to believe that it will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the great anniversary festival. The glorious event has indeed given rise to an annual jubilee, but not on the day designated by Adams. The 4th of July is the day of national rejoicing, for on that day, the Declaration of Independence, that solemn and sublime document, was adopted. Now, July 2nd, 1776, is the day that the Continental Congress actually voted for independence. So see today as the holiday. It's Independence Day. Now, to make things even more confusing, the written Declaration of Independence was dated July 4th, but wasn't actually signed until August 2nd. So when do we celebrate? Maybe we could celebrate all of them and get some extra days off. Well, this Tuesday is the 4th of July. And hopefully in celebrating the holiday, our attention won't only be on hot dogs and fireworks, but also on the very idea of freedom itself. Because the idea of freedom is essential to New Thought. Now, in the very beginning of his book, The Science of Mind, Dr. Ernest Holmes writes, "The divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. All instinctively feel this. The truth points to freedom under law. Thus, the inherent nature of man is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. We do well to listen to this inner voice, for it tells us of a life wonderful in its scope, a love beyond our fondest dreams, of a freedom which the soul craves." So freedom, in a sense, is the point of everything we do in New Thought. So this morning, I'd like to look at the idea of freedom and actually how we can be free. Well, first of all, realize you have a center and a circumference. We all have a center and a circumference. And at the center, we are always free, although at the circumference, we may appear to be limited. This center is our consciousness, our identity in spirit, who and what we are as expressions of God. And the circumference is whatever we happen to be, we may be experiencing at a particular moment. And so it is always this center that we need to be concerned with. Now, we also have to realize that the mind is free. We're free to think anything that we want. See, no one knows what we're thinking. They can look at our facial expressions, they can look at our body language and try to guess, but they really don't know. You know, that's very frightening for a speaker. I'm watching you and I really have no idea what you're thinking. But this is our sovereignty, and it can be our very own declaration of independence. Because the consciousness is free. So let's see why this is true. Now, God created us out of itself and then gave itself to us. It gave us creative power and then left us free to do what we want to do whatever we want to do. Now, another way to state this basic idea is that there's a mind principle in the universe. This mind principle is God, Spirit, the infinite mind. And we express this mind principle, and because we express it, we reflect the divine nature and how it works. See, at the center, we're all spiritual, although we may remain unaware of it, and being unaware of it create many problems. Well, what about that limitation at the circumference? Why do we have limitations, challenges, negative experiences of all kinds? Now, again, in the Science of Mind textbook, Dr. Holmes writes, the original life is infinite. It is good. It is filled with peace. It is the essence of purity. It is the ultimate of intelligence. It is power. It is law. It is life. It is in us. In our ignorance of the truth, we have misused the highest power we possess. And so great is this power, so complete is our freedom in it, so absolute the domain of law through it, that the misuse of this power has brought upon us the very conditions from which we suffer. We are bound because we are first free. The power which appears to bind us is the only power in the universe which can free us. So we're free to be what we select, desire, and choose to be. The universe always backs us up. We're in a yes experience, and we're the only ones who can say no. And this is the meaning of we are bound because we are first free. We're free, and then we use this freedom to bind ourselves. Because we are free to select, because we are free to be what we select, desire, and choose. We may select, desire, and choose poorly, producing a limited experience. Whenever I talk about this, I think of that scene in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, where he's in the chamber with all the grails. And he's in there with the Grail Knight. And the Walter Donovan character chooses the wrong cup. He drinks it, he ages and disintegrates into dust. And so the Grail Knight says, he chose poorly. Well, we do that. We choose poorly. Now, the consequences aren't quite that dire. But we've still chosen poorly, and that's why we suffer, because we're going to experience the result of our choices. Now, our consciousness determines our experience. The subconscious mind acts as a law of creativity that we must direct to create what we want. Because of what we are, because of our divine nature, we have the ability to choose, and this is free will. And we can attain our good through the mental, we can only attain our good through the mental acceptance of ideas. To take a simple example, we go to a restaurant. I went to a restaurant and I had breakfast before I came here. And now I'm broke. But that's what restaurants are like in the Hamptons. But that wasn't the point I was trying to make. We go to a restaurant, we look at the menu. The menu provides a variety of ideas. We order, and by ordering, we've selected an idea of all those ideas that are on the menu that are available to us. Now, this same process goes on all day, both consciously and subconsciously. I think Louise Hay talked about this in her book. She said it's like a big smorgasbord of ideas. And we go and we pick the ones that we want. She went on to say, if we pick one that makes us sick, we're not going to go pick it again. So why do we do that in life? But we're constantly choosing from a great menu of ideas or allowing them to be chosen for us. And when we're not consciously accepting ideas, we're accepting them subconsciously, and what we're accepting subconsciously are often the ideas of the world. Now, some of these are good and some of these are bad. Now, we don't have to accept everything that the world is telling us. That's very important. We don't have to accept everything that the world is telling us. Now, also, we must have faith in a creative power. But faith that we're talking about here isn't a blind faith or a faith in some kind of supernatural power. What faith is a conviction so completely accepted that you cannot conceive of its opposite. That's what faith is. Now, you think about it, you already have faith in many things. For example, when you came in here and sat down, you had complete faith in the chair. It never entered your mind that the chair wouldn't hold you. Well, I guess depending on your experience with the chairs in the past, you might have. But usually we walk in, we have complete faith in the chair. We sit down. We don't wonder, is it going to hold me? Is it not going to hold me? We don't touch it gingerly and press down on it to see if it's going to hold our weight. We come, we plop ourselves down and sit in the chair because we have faith that that chair is going to hold us. Now, if we understand this creative power and why we have it, then we'll have faith in it. That's what we mean by faith. It's this understanding of the creative power and why we have it that gives us the confidence in it, the conviction about it, and it's that conviction that is faith. So I would always think of faith, when I think of faith, think of conviction, a conviction about something. All right, so let's say there are some problems at the circumference. What do we do about it? Remember, whatever our situation may be, we can still think about what we want. Because at the center, the spirit is free. At the center, spirit is always there awaiting our recognition. It's there, but we have to know it's there. So we take a few minutes to remember that it's always there. That life is always saying yes. That we say no through our doubts and fears and all of the rest of it. Well, we want to turn that around. That's how we're dealing with these problems at the circumference. Because it's up to us to be well or happy or whatever else it is that we need. When we recognize a situation and want to do something about it, the way to do something about it is to start an opposite trend of thought. We work on whatever problems we have by doing some spiritual thinking about it. We never run around wringing our hands saying, what can I do? What can I do? And even if we start to think, well, don't do that, you're only fooling yourself, you better go back to wringing your hands. We continue with our spiritual thinking and direct our thinking that way. There's a story about a hiker who was all by himself out in the middle of the wilderness who fell off a cliff. And luckily, halfway down, he grabbed hold of a vine and it stopped his fall. Unluckily, he was still hanging 75 feet from the ground and the vine was beginning to break. Desperate, the man looked up to the heavens and called out, "Is there anyone up there who can help me?" Well, incredibly, the clouds parted, a bright light shone down, and a deep voice said, "I am the Lord. I will help you. But first you must trust me and let go of the vine." Well, the man stared at the clouds, then looked down at the earth 75 feet below. He looked back up and shouted, "Is there anyone else up there who can help me?" Now, we can be something like that hiker. The solutions to our problems are always available to us. But it can be hard to accept that the solution to our problems lies in changing our subconscious patterns of thought. We bind ourselves to limitation by our emotional experiences, by our emotional responses, by the patterns in our subconscious mind. We redirect this emotion through thinking. We use strong statements to which the subconscious must respond. Remember that it must respond. So the purpose of New Thought is to take you within yourself to the constant spiritual action of pure mind that is there. Now, Dr. Frederick Bales, who was another early teacher in religious science, wrote a little booklet called Spiritual Foundations of Freedom. Our feet walk the outer path of business and the activities of the world. But in addition, we learn to withdraw, detaching our minds from the pull of the world, allowing them instead to occupy themselves with that upon which the inner soul can feed. We cultivate something of beauty and wisdom, of love and power. Then by turning away from the one to the other, we are far better able to carry on the activities that are of the material outer side of life. And so you can be free when you know that you're free. You're the knower, the selector, and the deciding factor in your life. What you really know causes something to happen because the universe is a system of knowing that produces form. So our attention must always be on the creative aspects of life. We want fullness and a sense of satisfaction with our lives. We want to be able to say, I'm glad that I'm alive today. We want to be able to say, I am free. And when we can say this, then we will be. And so ends the lesson.